All right, y'all. Let's listen a little bit to the White House press briefing. All right. Plus, it's raining, y'all. So let's listen and see what she got to talk about today, y'all.
Comprehensive written report.
Any flags in the visible?
I don't want to get ahead of the doctor. As you saw, he just got back moments ago. They're working to finalize the memo. As soon as we have that for you all, we certainly will share that.
And the president's getting remarks in an hour or so on the unidentified objects that have been shot down in the Chinese spy surveillance program above the balloon. There's been that interagency review process underway last week. Is it safe to assume now that the president's speaking that review is now done? And should we expect to hear about these new procedures that you've been previewing the last couple of days?
So let me just first say, I'm not going to get ahead of the president in his remarks, which will happen momentarily. He will speak about the United States response to the recent aerial objects. That includes our decisive response to China's high-altitude surveillance balloon, and the president putting the safety and security of the American people always first. So that's what you'll hear from him, but I'm not going to get ahead of the details. As far as it relates to the interagency team, they are continuing to work.
Well, if he put the American people first, why ain't nobody been held accountable for releasing that virus, man? Damn, y'all can come up with all other answers for everything else, but when it comes to who released the virus and who's responsible, y'all play Scooby-Doo and shit, man. You don't really have no questions, no answers for the people that ask you the questions.
Intensively on putting forth parameters to what, this is something that the president asked them to do. So that is continuing. That work is continuing, but you will hear from the president, and he'll give an update on what has occurred over the last several days.
And briefly, last night there were reports of the FBI searched the University of Delaware, the president's papers there, this time in the Senate. Did the president consent to that search?
So I understand the questions. I know there are going to be a few more questions about that. I'm going to say from here, as I have been for the past couple of weeks, we're going to continue to be prudent. I will not give any comments about this ongoing investigation. I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Yeah, welcome. I haven't seen you here in a long time. Oh, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good to see you as well. On the searches, regarding searches at the University of Delaware, is there any other office space President Biden kept his records from the time he was vice president to now?
Again, I'm going to respond just the same way I just did with Zeke, is we're just going to continue to be consistent here, and I'm just not going to respond to or give comment to what's occurring right now with that investigation, and refer you to the Department of Justice.
Okay, can you say who prompted the search?
Again, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
One on Nikki Haley, who is now running for president. She is calling for mental competency tests for politicians 75 and up, clearly a dig at the current president. In her first speech, since announcing her run, she said America's not past our prime, it's just that our politicians are past theirs. We won't win the 21st century if we keep trusting politicians from the 20th century. Does the president have any response to that statement?
So I'll say this. Again, I'm going to be very careful, as I am when speaking about a candidate. She's currently, as you all know, a candidate for 2024, so I am covered by the Hatch Act, so I'm not going to speak to her directly and her comments specifically, but I will say this more broadly. We've heard these types of attacks or remarks before, and if you go back to 2020, they said that the president couldn't do it in 2020 and attacked him there, and he beat them. In 2021, when he entered the White House and worked to do his best to turn everything around with the economy tanking, with no COVID, real COVID comprehensive response, the president got to work and was able to pass the American Rescue Plan with the help of Democrats in Congress. And guess what? They turned around the economy, and he beat them there too. In 2022, when everyone was talking about a red wave and saying that we were going to get another shellacking, if you will, the president beat them at their own game there as well. And so I don't know, maybe they've forgotten, maybe they're forgetting the wins that this president has had over the last couple of years, but I'm happy to remind them anytime.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Karine. The Israeli cabinet has voted to expand the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. What's the Biden administration's position on that?
So a couple of things on that, on those reporting or what we've seen. We are deeply dismayed by Israelis' announcement that they will advance thousands of new settlements and retroactively legalize 9 outposts in the West Bank that were until now illegal under Israeli law. The United States strongly opposes these unilateral measures, which exacerbates tensions, harm trust between the parties, and undermine the geographic viability of the two-state solution. During his recent trip to Israel, Secretary Blinken was clear that all parties should refrain from actions that heighten tensions and take us further away from peace. Settlement construction and expansion in the heart of the West Bank to include the legalization of outposts creates facts on the ground that undermine a two-state solution. It has been long-standing U.S. policy under both Republican and Democratic administrations that settlements are counterproductive to the cause of peace. The Biden administration maintains this firm opposition to the settlement expansion, and that is where we are with that at this time.
One other topic. Has the White House been in touch with Senator Manchin about his comments or his push that there should be talks about the debt ceiling and a reduction?
So I'll say more broadly, our team here is in regular communication with Senator Manchin. We've had clearly close relationship with him and working on key historic pieces of legislation over the past 2 years. Look, the president's stance on negotiation stands, right? Which is he does not believe, as it relates to the debt ceiling, that we should be negotiating. That is not his belief. His belief, it is the constitutional duty of Congress to deal with the debt ceiling, just like they have done multiple times, 3 times with the last president. There should not be conditions around this. We should not be negotiating. And again, if they want to talk about ways to lower the deficit, like the president has done the last 2 years, $1.7 trillion, the president has said, he said yesterday in his State of the Union address that his fiscal plan, his budget will lower the deficit by another $2 trillion. Clearly we'll have more to share on March 9th. He's willing to have that conversation. He's willing to see what Republicans are going to put forward and how they see dealing with the budget in a fiscally responsible way. But as it comes to the debt ceiling, we're going to continue to be where we are. He mentioned this yesterday in his speech, which is he doesn't believe that we should be negotiating.
Another UK administrator
Talking in circles, yo.
I was wondering, the Ohio governor
She ain't really saying shit, yo.
efforts to federal support said they still have not gotten an indication from FEMA that they can support at this point. What are the hurdles there that you guys see on the administration?
So, the governor, as you mentioned today,
Little fine little
additional
Aunt your
public
mama
health
too, yo.
testing and assessments. We're deploying teams from HHS and the CDC.
Fine little
now.
Aunt your mama.
As
Look
you
at that.
know, these needs are much more expansive than what FEMA can meet. And so FEMA is on the front lines when there is a hurricane or tornado. As you know, you've seen the president visit devastated areas across the country.
Fine little
The
Aunt your
situation,
mama, ain't she,
is
yo?
very different. And so that doesn't mean FEMA isn't supporting response. They indeed are. This is a multiple agency response.
She talking riddles, y'all. She talking circles. She don't never
as I just mentioned, HHS,
answer half the
EPA
goddamn
as well.
questions that they be
We are
asking her, y'all.
coordinating
She
with the
always
emergency operations.
flip that shit. You know what I'm saying? But here she go right here, y'all. I'm gonna show y'all where she at. Where you at? There you at. There you go. There she go right there, y'all. There she go. There she go, y'all. There she go right there. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there's a whole lot going on in the world, the real world. There's a lot of blame game and shit going on and all types of foolishness. That's going on in the real world. But Hold on.
Manhunt took
Y'all
over
remember
a street
this?
in Delaware County for hours as SWAT teams searched for the suspect. NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville has the exclusive details.
We were the only ones here when the 18-year-old turned himself into police tonight. He was surrounded by family, including his grandmother and aunt. Investigators tell us the entire shooting was captured on video.
I'm hurt for that man. Like, he lost his life.
This woman tells NBC 10 she's the gunman's mother. A few hours later, her son, 18-year-old Muhammad McBride, turned himself into police. It was a tearful goodbye for his family as they hugged him one last time. This is exclusive video of him making his way inside headquarters. Investigators believe McBride fired the deadly shots inside a corner store on 3rd Street in Chester. That led to a standoff for hours. Before he gave himself up, his mother briefly talked to us. What do you want to say to your son if we can get a message out to your son?
I want my son to turn himself in.
Investigators say McBride and the victim in his 20s argued inside the store first. They say the two started to fight with the teenager knocking the guy over the head with a coffee pot before shooting him. Police say he then ran down the block to his family's house. As SWAT teams surrounded the home, we saw officers carry out 2 small children. Neighbors say the violence isn't anything new.
We hear gunshots all day long. Day in, day out.
SWAT teams eventually cleared the house with no signs of McBride. Police say there have been several shootings in that area over the years, including inside the same store. A long day, but police now have their man. Aaron Baskerville, NBC 10 News.
We just doing articles and we covering things that happened in Chester in the past, y'all. Let's go.
More violence plagues the city of Chester as police make arrests in the shooting death of a 13-year-old. Joe Holden is in Chester with more for us. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Jessica. 2 things going on here on this Tuesday. Police seem to be running nonstop. They had 8 shootings in the city on Monday. They are working to solve as many of those cases as possible. In one incident, 5 people were shot outside. And now comes word the arrest of 4 people accused of killing a 13-year-old boy from last month. 8 people shot across the city of Chester on Monday. A violent day recorded in a city that needs help. That troubling statistic is met with a major development in a tragic homicide. And it's just so heartbreaking. A month after they buried their 13-year-old son, the Davises got news today from U.S. Marshals and police. 4 people are now held on first-degree murder in their son's killing. It's so bitter for me, man. Not just because he's my son. He was one of these people that's once in a generational kids.
That's KC right there, y'all. Good man right there, y'all. That's KC right there. He's a good man, y'all. He lost his son, you know what I mean, due to these senseless violence in Chester. Of these 4 scumbags that took his son's life, you know what I'm saying?
Generational kids. That was just, he wasn't selfish about himself because of this athletic ability he had. Going into 9th grade, he's one of the top 5 kids in football and basketball. Nike's Davis had an infectious smile. The Chester 8th grader was a natural talent on the basketball court and football field. He was shot numerous times on May 3rd behind St. Catherine Drexel Church. He was targeted, he was chased down, and he was executed in the middle of the day. His heartbroken parents have continued to celebrate his life. His graduation banner hangs proudly outside the family's twin home. Friends keep vigil at his nearby grave where lights, flowers, and balloons have been placed. Neighbors were visibly relieved with word arrests had been made. Could be very cut. Court documents show the 4 suspected killers confronted Nike's Davis. Their movements in a silver Acura SUV with Delaware tags allegedly tracked by surveillance. Prosecutors wouldn't single out who pulled the trigger or disclose why they believe Nike's was targeted. As many as 3 eyewitnesses placed the 4 suspects at the scene.
This last word she heard him say was why. I can't get that out of my head. Why?
All 4 of those suspects tonight are being held without bond at the jail here in Delaware County. We're live in Chester. This is Joe Holden, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Chester continue to search for a 14-year-old boy who allegedly fired the shots last night that killed a 79-year-old motorist. Action News reporter Maggie Kent is live at Chester Police with an update. Maggie, what's the latest on this?
Jim, inside that car with the 79-year-old man was an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. It's still not clear who was the intended target of the shooting, but tonight, Chester Police looking for a 14-year-old boy.
I heard a good 5-6 gunshots.
On Wednesday evening, shots jolted neighbors along 3rd Street in Chester. Police say the gun was fired by a 14-year-old boy, Saphir Tinsley Jones. At least one of the bullets fatally striking 79-year-old Robert Womack in the back of his head.
I heard like 6 shots and then a series of booms.
Womack was driving near 3rd and Highland Avenue when he was hit. His 18-year-old grandson and 17-year-old friend were with him. At some point, they ran out of the car. Chester Police say Womack was able to drive for 7 blocks, crossing into Traynor, before the car came to a crashing stop at 3rd and Wilcox Street. Natisha Moore's car was one of the many hit.
By the time the EMTs got here, like, you literally see him walk over, and he leaned in the car, and then he put his bag on his shoulder, and I was like, he didn't make it.
He didn't deserve that. Like, no one deserved that. To go like that.
Pate Purvis says his former neighbor was never in trouble.
He was a good man. And a hard worker. I know that.
Tonight, police are still searching for the 14-year-old suspect, Saphir Tinsley Jones.
That's so sad. Like, these kids shouldn't have guns. They should have something else better to do besides shooting at people.
Chester Police asking if you know the whereabouts of Tinsley Jones, that you give them a call immediately.
Yeah, he did turn himself in, ladies and gentlemen. The young man that did that. Let's get into this one.
A 4-year-old girl is dead after an apparent accidental shooting outside of a Delaware County convenience store. Authorities believe a 2-year-old was the one holding the gun when it went off. Eyewitness News reporter Alicia Reed joins us from Chester, where neighbors are shocked and sad. Alicia.
Good evening, Yuki. This was an ordinary family trip to the local mini mart, possibly to fill up on gas and snacks, but something went tragically wrong today that sent neighbors rushing over to help. A single gunshot from inside a vehicle parked for gas at the Eagle Save Mart on Curlin Street.
It's sad. It's sad. You know, it's sad.
It just makes me feel so bad. Any kind of shooting, I'm scared to death. Witnesses say the children's father was outside the car when, according to officials, a 2-year-old boy was handling a gun inside the vehicle when it discharged. The bullet struck a 4-year-old girl that was also sitting inside.
A kid do not know nothing about a gun. They think it's a toy.
The 4-year-old was rushed to Crozier, where she was later pronounced dead. Loved ones gathered outside the hospital awaiting an update on the girl's condition and erupted with grief after officials confirmed her death.
As a parent, I know he didn't meant for that to happen. You know, and I know he's on to hell. He's on to hell, you know. I hope God be with him. That's all I can say.
Neighbors say the children's father is a doting dad.
He took care of his kids. He sat there. He kept his kids right there beside him. Okay. That man was no bad dude. He was a very beautiful man.
Just an awful tragedy. Police say this is still an ongoing investigation. Reporting live from Delaware County, Alicia Reed, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Alicia, thanks. Is dead and 2 others are injured after a shooting in Chester. Eyewitness News reporter Greg Argos is live at Chester Police Headquarters with the latest on this. Greg?
And Jessica, good evening. We've learned the ages of these 3 victims, 15 years old, 16 years old, and 18 years old. And tonight the commissioner here in Chester says the 15-year-old is the person killed. His name is Ronald Lundy. Under this overpass on the 1300 block of West 7th Street in Chester City, senseless violence, a drive-by shooting which injured 3 teenagers.
I'm outraged by it. You know, it hits home.
Carl Everett is a minister at Grace United Methodist Church, and like many of the people we spoke with in Chester City, did not want his face shown.
We
as a people, need to come together and address some of the issues that are facing us and not look for people to solve our problems.
Chester police are not saying much about this crime. They're staying very tight-lipped, only stating the drive-by shooting happened minutes after 3 p.m. this afternoon. The Chester Upland School District confirms 3 people were shot, 2 of them students at Chester Upland High School. Late Monday night, Chester Police Commissioner Otis Blair confirming the one killed a 15-year-old teenager.
I'm asking all available men, clergy, and anyone that wants to greet our children back at Chester High School tomorrow morning, because this is one of their classmates.
Now, if there is any silver lining in any of this, it is that the 16-year-old and the 18-year-old have non-life-threatening injuries. We're live here in downtown Chester.
Fly early this morning at a gas station in Chester, Delaware County. Let's get right out to Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore. She is live at that scene where there is a lot of police activity, we're told. So, Crystal, what's happening out there?
Good morning, Jan. Well, I just learned a couple of minutes ago from a detective here at the scene that 2 people have been killed. Now, let me step out the way so I can show you the scene here at 9th and Curlin here in Chester. There are 2 gas stations in front of me, the Eagle Fuel, but it seems as though the A-Plus Sunoco gas station is at the center of this investigation. Police, detectives have gone in and out of that A-Plus market that you see right there. The medical examiner also here at some point just leaving a couple of minutes ago. I'm also told that the commissioner is also here on the scene. Now, this crime scene, it looks like the officer, commissioner, sir? Good morning, sir. We actually have the commissioner here live with me. Sir, what can you tell us about what's happening here right now?
Right now, we have a double homicide. Officers received a call for a large fight in establishment here. The fight spilled out into the parking lot. Shots were exchanged, and one deceased discharged his weapons, dropped where he was standing, and then another one was able to drive away and pass while he was driving.
So this fight, tell me again, it started, we believe, inside them?
Yes, inside the establishment.
Do we know what was the nature of this argument?
Not at this time, no.
How old were the victims, male, female?
Both males. Young males. We're not sure exact age.
Does anything strike you as unusual with this shooting?
The fact that several individuals were involved in this that was kind of unusual. And then it spilled out into the street, well, into the parking lot, excuse me. And what we have now, 2 crime scenes, 2 deceased individuals.
Talk about the second crime scene. That's where the car was found, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other details? What's your investigation like at this point? Looking at surveillance video. Any other details you can tell us?
Looking at surveillance video and also speaking to witnesses. And we're going to canvass the area for additional video footage. So that's where we are at this point.
Commissioner, we're kind of late to the game here. Can you fill us in on what we know? We're here 2 people are dead.
That's correct. What we do know at this time is that initiated inside the establishment here, the gas station, spilled into the parking lot. Shots were exchanged between the 2.
And you heard it, Jan, back here live. That was the commissioner just speaking. 2 people killed. Seems as though it started from some kind of fight. We're going to continue to listen and try and get more information, but that's the very latest here in Chester. We're live. Crystal Cranmore, CBS 3.
Thank you, Matt. Developing now at noon, nearly 24 members of rival drug trafficking groups in Chester are now off the streets. Authorities announced their arrests in a joint news conference just a short time ago.
Eyewitness News reporter Joe Holden is live at the Chester Police Department with the very latest details in this case. Joe.
Good afternoon. Some of the officials, the prosecutors, police, law enforcement, the district attorney's office officials leaving here, Chester Police Headquarters, that news conference wrapping up just within the last 5 minutes. You mentioned the unsealing of indictments involving 22 people. The indictments are sweeping in nature and detail the alleged criminal enterprises of 2 rival drug gangs controlling and warring over territory here in the city of Chester. The indictment spans from May of 2016 until last month. of the accusations. We are talking about what prosecutors call an ongoing reign of terror at the hands of these rivaling drug gangs, one known as the Third Bone, the second one, the William Penn. They deal with specific geographical locations in the city of Chester. So this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, federal agents, state police from Pennsylvania and Delaware, the district attorney's office, Chester police raided a number of locations and took 13 people in. These charges are dealing with the distribution of crack cocaine, fentanyl, and heroin. They talked about turf wars and infighting that read like Hollywood stories. The rivalry that got so intense that in February of 2019, the head of one of the gangs was apparently involved in a shooting and then in turn put out a bounty on a rival's head. All of this apparently used by the members of these gangs. They would use police scanners to warn one another. They would also use intelligence to thwart potential police activity and investigations on their trail. U.S. Attorney William McSwain making comments just a few moments ago. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say.
These two groups have operated drug territories next to each other and have terrorized the community members living and working in this area. But today, this reign of terror ends.
Well, prosecutors say they are confident in believing they have destroyed from the inside out these two rivaling gangs here in the city of Chester. A quote from a federal officer, I quote, "I've personally never have seen an operation this size where we rounded up 22 people. Now of those 22 people, 13 will make their first appearances before a federal magistrate at 1:30. I'll be back at 4 o'clock with the very latest on this developing story out of Chester, Delaware County.
We heard pop, pop, pop. Everybody just put their heads down.
Caught in the crossfire of a drive-by shooting, bullets whizzing past innocent people, stopped at a red light in Chester. In the end, 2 people were shot. Good evening, I'm Joe Holden. The chaos playing out in the middle of the afternoon, and right now police say one victim is clinging to life. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petro live in Chester as this story develops. Matt.
Well, Chester police are still investigating, but a man at the scene tells us he was driving when bullets started flying.
Pop, 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 pop. The dude in the back was firing at the dude in the front.
A very chaotic scene here at 9th and Edward Streets in Chester City, just before 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. That's when gunfire erupted from a moving vehicle as this man was in his car sitting at a red light.
I'm fine. 2 of my passengers are fine. One guy took a bullet in the bicep, came right to the back of the car right there. Yeah, he'll be fine.
He also says the vehicle that was the intended target ended up in this yard. You can see shattered glass at the intersection. Tire tracks in the front yard of this home are also left behind after the driver lost control and slammed into this concrete porch.
The guy in the front was definitely targeted. From what the police said, it was simply not just a little 9mm or little 22. They were using an AR-15, and I had 223 round here in the car.
Chester City police are still trying to figure out exactly what happened in the moments before that gunfire erupted. This woman says her son was shot, and he's an innocent victim.
It's scary.
I'm not upset. What I am is absolutely disgusted.
And so 2 people were shot. One is in critical condition, the other is stable. Anyone with information urged to contact Chester police. Reporting live in Chester, Mappin.
From the family, tonight we're hearing from the family and friends of 2 teenagers shot and killed in Chester, Delaware County. It happened at a place where children should feel safe. Eyewitness News reporter Joe Holden is live in Chester with the very latest on the investigation. Joe?
Jessica, you know, the saddest thing about this story is these teenagers were playing at a basketball hoop just recently installed. They are 15 years old, 2 of them dead tonight. I can tell you, Chester City Police, city officials, even the school district, all quiet about the investigation. That's Edward Harmon, a basketball-loving Chester High student. He was 15.
He was a good kid.
He was nice.
And this is Tavon Avery, also 15. Both Tavon and Edward were shot Tuesday afternoon.
My girlfriend called and said that our children were shot, so I just got down the street.
Tavon's mom said the horror of the moment became all too real as she waited for information.
It's the worst day standing there waiting for confirmation if it's your kid or not. It's a terrible feeling.
2 other teens were also shot in a case that police and Delaware County prosecutors have yet to take questions on. Police swarmed the area of 200 Broomall Street in a crime scene that quickly expanded for blocks. Edward's grandmother was proud of the young man he had become.
He made a difference here in the community. They loved Edward. He played ball. He came to the games. He stood out as a fun kid. He wasn't street. He was just about sports, school, girls. He was a lady man.
Edward played varsity basketball for Chester High School. Tavon was on the JV team. Both men expected to be honored tonight, remembered and eulogized when Chester faces Cardinal O'Hara. Coming up on Eyewitness News at 6, working our sources to get the latest on the investigation and where it stands. And also, while we were interviewing family members of these 2 gunshot victims, more gunfire in the city of Chester. Lots of tight degrees of separation here. I'll explain what that means when I see you in 1 hour. Live in Chester, Joe Holden, CBS 3.